Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest in the Phase 3 Meet series. This week, my absolute pleasure to have Anthony Vollmer join us from Moorepay. Anthony, how are you doing?
It's very well. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Honestly, I know you're really pressed for time, so I appreciate you taking a chunk out to speak with us. I really do. So, for those of you who don't know Anthony, it's a very impressive CV I have here. So, Anthony's held various senior leadership roles over the past 20 years or so, I suppose, including being the former CEO of PlusNet, the former CEO of Tesco Mobile, the executive director for customer and digital at Virgin Media, and is currently the managing director of Moorepay, which of course is part of which is a Zealous company, I should add as well. So HR and payroll mammoth, really. How have you fitted all that in, Anthony? That's pretty impressive.
You're making me feel old.
No. I wasn't sure you'd appreciate it when I said over the past 20 years. I read it and I thought maybe I should have condensed that down a little bit.
There was quite a lot of serendipity involved in all those different moves. So, and I've been lucky to be in the right place at the right time a couple of times.
Well, we all need a bit of luck, don't we?
Yeah.
We all need a bit of luck. But why don't we start with you just providing an overview of Moorepay and what it is you guys what you guys do?
Sure. So Moorepay is a provider of payroll and HR software and services to small and medium-sized businesses in a nutshell. So now everybody has a different description of what a small and medium-sized business is, I've discovered. So to translate that for everybody, we think of it roughly as being any company from about 50 employees to about 1,000 employees. And I appreciate that there's a lot of companies that are smaller than 50 employees, and we have quite a lot of those who are our customers. And we have some customers who are larger than 1,000, but our focus is that part of the market. The business evolved over many years, and some of the listeners might know it far better than I do, frankly, through a wonderfully kind of British story of various businesses being started up in the payroll and HR sector, coming together, creating Moorepay over the years, and then that business itself being bought and sold a couple of times, and we're now part of the Zealous Group. And the business is based in Manchester, although we've got a really large office in Farnborough as well in Hampshire. Right. So it's about 2/3 of the people in Manchester, about a third in Farnborough, and then we've also got a team of people who work for us out in Kochi, which is in Kerala in India, who do a lot of our processing out there. So it's a great business, and it's although it's old, and formed in 1966. We kind of want to talk about this. I said it doesn't feel old at all, and if anything, it feels younger than quite a few of the younger businesses I've worked in, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay. We will come to that in terms of the kind of history of the organization. But I think you mentioned there that obviously Moorepay provide HR and payroll services and software. I think most people would have you down as kind of weighted towards more payroll from the two. But you actually have quite a big HR presence as well, don't you? And maybe just explain a little bit about what you guys can offer from a pure HR perspective to our community.
Sure. I mean, you're right. The pedigree of the business is managed payroll.
Yeah.
So if you look at the biggest chunk of what we do, it's managed payroll. Although we've started selling a lot more payroll software recently. HR, there's two components to our HR offer. No rocket science here. One is the software, which gets sold as a suite with the payroll, but the other component is what we call HR services, which is essentially HR expertise available either on the phone or pre-COVID in person, now remotely as a consultancy offer, backed up with insurance for any employee issues arising, advocacy and health and safety. Yeah. That was a business that Moorepay bought quite a long time ago. I'm going to guess at around 15 years ago, and I'll probably be corrected as to exactly when. And that business over time has evolved to become much closer to the payroll business. But of course, what's exciting at the moment is that HR software is finally allowing us to kind of put the whole jigsaw together in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And switching back now to payroll from that as well. Obviously, the last few months must have been a ridiculously busy time for you guys, as it has been for any kind of payroll software provider or managed payroll provider, with all the furlough kind of claims to thousands of your customers. Really, it's a big figure, isn't it, when when you put it that way? Obviously, of varying sizes as well. How have you kind of how have you managed that change, I suppose, within the business, and to ensure that the customers get, customer service and end result?
Yeah. How long have you got? I will start by saying that obviously none of us expected this year to pan out how it did, like in all walks of life. And I'm married to a doctor, so I've seen both sides of this fence. But the team have done an outstanding job, and it has had its moments. The hardest part was probably May, when obviously the furlough scheme was announced, put into operation, but and whilst adoption soared in April, and we pay about 250,000 people through the system every month. Well over 10% of that base was furloughed at peak, going on for 15%. And we took that on for all of our customers, without making it sound like an advert, for no extra charge, to just do the work. And we coded it into the software, and we set up the processes for the teams, from the data input right the way through to the claim report. And the claim report, obviously, that everyone's come to know and love, became the lifeline for businesses. So the pressure was not only, are people being paid on time and are they being paid the correct amount, but also, do our customers have the information they need to go and claim that money from the HMRC, which was so vital when they were desperate for the cash. And the team literally worked round the clock. And like so many companies that have had to move heaven and earth to get done, it is utterly incredible what can be achieved, and what teams are capable of doing. I'd actually say it's got a bit harder, if anything, just because exhaustion has set in. And as we've gone through the summer, and when I think flexi furlough, whilst it was clearly a great policy and moved with the pandemic, introduced a whole nother level of complexity. So we ended up with another big ramp in adoption in August. And it's probably only in the last couple of months that we've stabilized the operation properly. But of course, then we was job support scheme going to happen? No, we're back to furlough. So the resilience of the team has been tested. And we've done, to be honest, I said, we've just taken a really straightforward view as a group of people about the pressure on us. And we've obviously everyone's been working from home since early March, but we've utterly adopted flexible working. So the approach with the team has been, if we're busy, we're busy. If we're not, we're not, and 9 to 5 is out of the window. We have some quiet weeks, although the team, if they're listening to this, would say,
quiet weeks?
How many? And then we've had some down in folklore, I think. And I'll be straight. We've, for some customers, it's been really hard. It's been in two counts. One, because the pressure's been on, because they wanted to furlough a lot of people in short order and make a lot of changes, and that's been hard to process quickly. And then secondly, it's hard for customers who aren't furloughing, because the operation gets consumed supporting the customers who are furloughing. But I would say that overall, everyone has been enormously understanding of the pressure that the business has been under. And of course, we all see it in all walks of life everywhere we go, don't we? And a little bit of patience wearing thin here and there, but generally, something to be incredibly proud of.
Good for you. Sound like you and obviously your team there have done a remarkable job, and I can only echo what you've said. Obviously, for us and the payroll services we provide on a much smaller scale than you guys, of course, in terms of customer numbers. we felt the same, that when initially it came out in May, you're thinking, okay, we'll get our heads around this and we'll do this for our customers. And then what we find, similar to yourself, is when it was extended just recently into the new year, into 2021, there was that kind of like, that kind of lull in the kind of mindset for a little bit. But then you just have to crack on with it. And I think the light that has been shone on payrollers, over the last few months, is very well deserved indeed.
Yeah. It was real recognition, I think, for the whole profession that the payrollers became key workers.
Yeah.
And I think, it's so obvious when you stop and think about it, but
of course,
being the kind of function that generally people associate with, well, I need to call payroll when something's wrong rather than when it works well. It was vital, and the team really rose to that. But I think we, as an organisation and as a country, right, we all hit a low point coming into the autumn when the penny dropped for everyone that we were going to have to do this all over again. And it's, when you see people's sort of resilience and mental well-being really tested after months at home, knowing not only we're going to have to work this through the winter, but also that it was going to be hard work again. Like, just like for many sectors, it's asking a lot of everyone.
No, absolutely. One of the things that I take a real keen interest in is leadership, and that's across a variety of industries and sectors and stuff like that, because I like to learn from people who have been there, done that, and kind of have the t-shirt. And I find that from all of the phase 3 meets videos that we've done, there's always a little nugget or two that you can find that you think, okay, I could be doing that, or I should be doing that, or all right, I was never doing that, I'll try that. And with your background, Anthony, I really want to ask you, because you've kind of come from, is it fair to say that the last few roles you've had a kind of in a challenger environment? So PlusNet, and obviously Tesco Mobile, in terms of challenging the big boys in those industries. And then you moved across to a company that has such an established history, as you mentioned, 1966, the company was founded. How did you feel about taking over the reins at a different style of organization with so much history?
It's a good question, because I've never really thought about it like that. It's funny.
Okay.
Because it doesn't feel like a really old company. And now clearly
you touched upon that earlier.
It comes with, some platforms which are quite old, which need upgrading. It comes with, perhaps most importantly, people with huge tenure and experience. We regularly celebrate people who are 20, 30, 40 years into their career with the business, which is astonishing. But when I compare it to PlusNet and Tesco Mobile, whilst those organizations were younger brands, PlusNet, when I was running PlusNet, was part of BT, clearly much larger organization. And a lot of our challenge with defining what PlusNet stood for was, what did it stand for in the context of BT? And similarly, Tesco Mobile, whilst a challenger brand, is part of a huge organization, and also is not well known that it's a joint venture between O2 and Tesco Mobile. So
I didn't know that. No.
You're in the middle of two very large, successful companies, balancing their interests. So actually, with Moorepay, one of the things, and no disrespect to my previous employers, because I've loved both of those jobs, but the freedom that we've got to invest and grow Moorepay within the context of what we're doing overall with Zealous at the moment is fantastic. And Moorepay itself has, back to the point on tenure and expertise, so many ideas in the business. And I've never had a role where I've had such latitude to be able to run with those ideas and implement them and have the investment to do something with them. Now, that comes with another challenge, which is focus, because it's really easy to just set off and try and do too much. And Moorepay is not a big business, certainly when you compare it to a company like Tesco Mobile, but it's a leader in its field, and it's a really strong brand. So it's really exciting.
Did you find it kind of harder to be more innovative and to kind of affect change with a company has so much history. And I say that, and I understand everything you just said there, but you at the same time you said obviously that people are celebrating, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, and with that sometimes it's the mindset of, how many times have they had to have changed during that tenure there, and I look at challenger banks right now as an example. You got likes of Monzo and Starling, and all of these, and what I've noticed is so my personal account is with Lloyd's, and all of a sudden Lloyd's have upped their game, and they've got saving pots and nice fancy graphs and pie charts showing me how pay is split and so on. That wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for these challenger banks. It just wouldn't have happened. So is it harder to kind of affect that change and be innovative, do you think, in a company with such history? Or I suppose it depends on the company, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it is, but I think it's it's clearly a factor, but I think it's very dependent on the tone that you set in an organization, and in reality, the investment that you have or don't have. So I've been in larger businesses where investment has been cut back for various sensible reasons, and innovation generally takes a backseat. Whereas I find that when you start, and this was true with Moorepay to an extent, when you start talking about development and innovation in an organization that has gone through a period where innovation has slowed down, then it can take a while to get a bit of belief going. But it's like a rising tide that floats all boats. Slowly but surely, people, as it touches them, go, "Oh, I get it. We're doing it. It's good." That more the problem that we have in Moorepay at the moment are what I would call, and it's a good problem to have, we have what I call growing pains, which are essentially where we are, and it's clearly exacerbated by what we've been dealing with this year, which is why focus is so important, because it's so easy to say, right, we're going to do that, we're going to do that, we're going to do that as well, and before you know it, you spread yourself too thin. So we've made a real effort over the last year, particularly over the last 6 months, to just choose the things we're going to do and try and do them really well. But I think tenure, providing that the culture is respectful of people with tenure and brings their expertise and ideas to the fore. It's amazing how many times people say, well, we used to do it like this and it worked really well, and for some reason we stopped. And you go, okay, well, how about if we did that again? And they go, well, I wouldn't do it quite the same now because the world's gone. I'd do it like this. But if we did it like this, then we take the best of what we used to do with a new approach, and it works. And that sounds a bit, perfect world. It's not always like that. But I feel like we've got to that point in Moorepay, that's great. That's really satisfying.
Brilliant. And I think tenure can sometimes be overlooked as well, in terms of he or she's been there too long. We're kind of almost, that person's dismissed because they've been there for so long, rather than, wow, how much experience must that person have? What can he or she bring to the table? I absolutely agree with that point. We talked about innovation there in obviously in payroll, and obviously this financial well-being at the moment is very much on trend, rightly so as well. Where do you feel the HR and kind of payroll space is heading?
Oh, a big question. So I'll talk about one component of it, which I'm particularly kind of excited about, which is faster payments. So we're running a launch for a product at the moment, and we moved it out of pilot phase earlier this year, where we've partnered with MasterCard, and we're essentially enabling instantaneous payments from an employer to their employee. And this is really exciting because BACS, being what it is, a 3-day process, was revolutionary compared to check. But I guarantee that no one is saying, please move my money more slowly. Now, there might be reasons why people are like, I'm okay with BACS and I don't want it to move faster. That's fine. I respect that. But there's a lot of businesses and there are a lot of employees who'd be like, well, actually, back to your challenger bank analogy, I see my money moving very quickly in my daily life. Why isn't that happening in an SMB context? Why isn't that happening with my payroll? But then also with open banking, what it can enable is that employees can get much more benefit from their pay, because it can come out of a payroll app into their bank account instantaneously, but also they can be the fact that they have regular income coming in, and that can be seen through open banking and access through open banking, should enable them to access services or perhaps get better credit that they can't get at the moment, where they can't prove their income, or they can't prove their income quickly enough, and it takes weeks to get the pay slip and send it off, or to build up credit history, or et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not a specialist in in credit scoring, but talking to the people who are, they say that this could be a real breakthrough for a whole cohort of people. And also, if you think about people, gig workers, gig economy workers, weekly paid people who are doing the work and waiting, days, weeks for the money to land in their bank account. I mean, why, it is inexorable that we are heading to a place whereby you do your shift, you do your work, and you get the money as soon as possible, as soon as the systems allow. And I know there's a much broader agenda around well-being and financial wellness, which I think is fascinating. But this element of, well, actually, let's move money faster, and let's make sure in the kindest possible way to the banking system, that the banking system works for particularly the people who need the cash quickly. And I think payroll's got a really important part to play in that.
No, absolutely. It sounds like really exciting times ahead for Moorepay, Anthony.
I hope so.
You hope so? I think yes. I mean, it certainly does, based on some of the stuff you're saying. So looking forward to seeing how that all pans out, and the other kind of innovative services and solutions you guys come out with. Thank you so much for your time so far. I know you're pushed for time, so we're gonna move on quickly to the quick fire round. And just open you up a little bit here. Let's have a go. Okay, so Anthony, which app do you use the most?
Well, there's an honest answer.
Okay.
No. So in the day normally I probably look the most at the FT, particularly this year.
Okay.
I've always been a big FT subscriber, but I increasingly right now I'm looking at I'm big into sailing, and I'm following a race called the Vendée Globe, which is a round the world yacht race from France. Someone once described it as from France to France round Antarctica. And you can follow it all online, and it is the greatest lockdown tonic to be able to see these people out there in the Southern Ocean doing their thing. It's not okay, but I'm following that.
There you go. Brilliant. Okay. Are you a texter or a talker?
I'm a talker.
A talker. Great. I'm so happy you said that. My wife is a texter, and she'll text somebody and they won't reply for ages. I'm like, just pick up the phone. If you need to call them, speak to them, call them. And I think my obviously I'm a father of 3 as well, reasonably young children, kind of teenagers downwards, and they'll just text all the time, and not even via the actual messaging app. It'll be via Snapchat or or whatever they do. But good. Okay, we're both talkers. That's good.
Yeah, my kids are coming into that zone, so my naivety will be my downfall.
What's the best invention of all time?
I'd just say something profound like clean water, or I don't know.
Nothing wrong with clean water.
Nothing wrong with clean water. The only reason why I say that is we were talking about the vaccine recently at home, the COVID vaccine, and my youngest piped up, and I'm not going to remember it now, but about who invented vaccines, and she'd seen it on Horrible Histories.
Right.
And it was all around, well, it wasn't penicillin because that's antibacterial, but it was going back into the 19th century. And I can't even remember the details of the story, but she popped up with the names of the people who've invented the first vaccines. It was incredibly impressive.
Okay. Well, we'll take
another good invention. Timely. Yeah.
Okay. What did you want to be when you were a child? So when you were a kid?
I can be much quicker on. I wanted to be a pilot.
A pilot.
I've always been fascinated by planes. I'm known in my family as a plane geek.
Okay.
So obscure facts about planes. I grew up in Cheshire and lived under the flight path at Manchester Airport, and I can remember looking out my bedroom window as a kid at all the planes going in and out. And the thing is, I love my sleep, so I kind of reconciled myself to the fact that becoming a long haul pilot wasn't a great plan. But there was a really good book written by a BA pilot a couple of years ago, just describing sort of being over the middle of Russia in the middle of the night, seeing the Northern Lights.
Wow.
Very cool. Love that.
Did you ever take lessons or anything?
No, I used to ask to go to the cockpit before
Yeah.
9/11 and all that was stopped. I used to ask to go. Yeah, but yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, good. What's your favorite album of all time?
Oh God, these are impossible questions.
That's it. Easy. If you obviously they want to understand what kind of genre of music you were into here.
Well, real mix. So I'll choose two from the 90s, which will date me, right?
Okay.
Will mark me. But I've always loved Acting Baby by U2.
U2, brilliant
On
album.
the other hand, I've always I've really enjoyed dance music generally over the years,
Okay.
right? And so without picking a particular album, I love Underworld.
Okay.
And actually, I don't know if you remember the opening ceremony of 2012, which basically became a massive Underworld kind of club session as all the teams marched into the stadium. Loved it.
Okay, so quite an eclectic taste of music then.
Yeah.
Okay, U2 to dance. Brilliant. Okay, final question.
Yeah.
Two people, dead or alive, you choose to be trapped on a desert island with. Family and friends don't count.
God.
Any two people.
This needs about 5 minutes of contemplation. I'm a real reflector, so
okay.
Whichever I choose is going to go badly. Who would I choose? I would choose two people on a desert island. Okay, so someone who's a terrific fisherman. I'm deeply practical.
Okay, clearly you're very practical.
And actually Bear Grylls, he'd probably be good, right?
He'd be great at that. Yeah. Good thinking.
He'd be looking after us. And then maybe we need an entertainer. Yeah. So well, in the spirit of all the BBC reruns at the moment, loving a bit of Blackadder. So it might make me grumpy, but I'd have Rowan Atkinson.
Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah.
You see, it's that kind of thinking clearly puts you in the position that you are today. You know, rather than somebody asked me that, I'd come out with something daft like a footballer and something stupid like that. You're very practical. You need to eat and you need to be kept entertained because you're gonna get bored. See, brilliant.
Yeah, I think Rowan Atkinson might be quite high maintenance on a desert island, but
possibly. But good. Honestly, thank you so much, Anthony. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. For everyone who's watching this, get onto the Moorepay website, follow these guys on social media, get in touch with them as well, of course, if you need to inquire a little bit more as to what it is they do and how they can help you. And of course, follow Phase 3 as well where possible. So thank you, Anthony, again. Hopefully we can catch up soon, and appreciate your time again. Thank you
very much, Asad. Really enjoyed it.
Take
care. Bye.
Bye.